a world of ordinary fantasy football podcasts, ordinary guys rise up to bring you extraordinary analysis and entertainment. This is the Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts Kevin Cotillo, Sal Lito, and Stephen Marcus.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It is Tuesday, October 11th, and welcome into the Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Kevin Cotillo, and I have Sal Lito with me. What's going on, Sal?
Hello, Falafel. Welcome to Tuesday Falafel Vision.
Tuesday
What?
Falafel Vision, eh? Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
What?
That's the confusion you hear there is Steve Marcus. What's up, Steve?
How's it going? Welcome to
It's
this
going-
version of the Tuesday Falafel Podcast.
What are you just
Right.
twisting words around and trying to sound better than me?
No.
Yeah, and you
Think
know what?
you're better than me?
The worst part is he did sound better than you, so it worked.
You're a piece of dong. Move on.
Listen, it is Tuesday, like I said. This is the first week of our 3 episode weeks that we are going to start. The people have been asking for more and more Steve, and we're going to give it to them. Sorry, Sal. I thought it was about you, but really the clamoring has been for Steve.
I
Who
don't
are
know.
these three people?
Yeah, I don't know if I believe that. I don't know
No,
if I
it's-
believe that one bit. I mean, we're not used to working tonight. I think that's probably part of the issue here.
Yeah, this could go poorly. Just to be clear for everyone listening,
I'm
this
pretty
could
sure it already has.
This could go very poorly. We are not used to working 3 times a week. We are not used to working on Tuesday nights. There's no football on. This is throwing us all off. So, but we are gonna battle through it. This is gonna be, I think going forward, we're gonna use this episode to sort of get to some of the stuff that we don't typically get to when we're doing the game reviews and the game previews. So we're going to use this to talk about some stuff that we enjoy. Maybe like tonight, for example, we'll go through some news. We will do the game reviews from the Sunday and Monday night games since we didn't get to those. We're going to talk about some MFL 10 stuff tonight. The My Fantasy Leagues, MFL 10s, which we did a whole bunch, we've done a bunch of. Obviously, they draft in the preseason. So we'll get into some players that look good for those or some poor decisions that basically I've made because all of my teams are crap. We'll guide you through a couple of waiver wire transactions that you might be able to make either tomorrow or Wednesday, whenever you're or Thursday, I guess I should say, whenever your waivers clear. So Steve's got a couple surprises for us in that, which I think should be interesting. And I don't know. I honestly don't even know what else we're going to get into tonight. It's going to be pretty casual. What do you guys think?
It's Casual Tuesday.
It's
You
casual
said we were
too.
going to talk about things we like, and I like back rubs, so we can talk about that. That's cool.
That's
What exactly
Steve,
would we be talking about? Are you
Yeah,
going
yeah.
like technique or
Yeah, you like a knuckle, you like the forearm, good elbow back there.
elbow's nice?
I
Do you
think-
like if they walk on your back as a thing, as an option? I don't know. I'm not
What about the
necessarily saying
hot
anything
rocks?
See, I thought we were still going to talk about fantasy football, things we liked
Oh.
about fantasy football.
I had a whole other fantasy involved. Sorry.
All right, and on that note, let's get into a little bit of news. We're going to try and keep this podcast under an hour, guys, since it is just a bunch of fluff. So,
Never gonna happen.
never going to happen. Charles Sims goes on the IR. Obviously, he was dealing with a knee injury. Kind of came out quickly that he went on IR. All of a sudden, he was, the news came out that he was being moved to the injured reserve with the knee injury. I don't even think I've seen a clear report on what he actually has wrong with him yet. It limited him in week 4. He didn't play in week 5. And now he's on the IR. So I guess I'll ask you guys. I have him in a couple of places, so he's not killing me too bad. But this is a guy that was drafted a little higher than I think people had expected. Obviously expected to be involved in the passing game and get a little run. And, of course, he's Doug Martin insurance, given that Doug Martin is frail, I guess we'll say. So what are your thoughts there? What are you doing with this? Obviously, Jaquiz Rogers played this week, and man, did he get some touches. So,
Yeah, a lot of people got quizzed on last night.
Oh, come on. You're better than that, Sal.
I don't think you know me. I'm really not better than that. I'm pretty sure you're wrong.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Can you give us some actual fantasy analysis?
Listen, the hot topic, obviously, since that happened yesterday was, should I trade this guy for Doug Martin? Should I trade that guy for Doug Martin? What is Doug Martin worth? Should I trade Odell Beckham Jr. for Doug Martin? Doug Martin. So, yeah, I mean, you don't want to go crazy for Doug Martin. I think he comes back and he's going to be, he's got a shot at being a top 10 fantasy back. But, let's see how he comes back and heals up. Jaquiz Rogers carried the ball a ton. He looked very good early, and I think that his total numbers and stats and yards per carry didn't turn out quite as good because it was a little bit tougher sledding in the second half. But I think he's earned a right to at least get some touches. So, it's a shame. Sims wasn't a promising guy, a guy who I think that when Martin went down, people thought could seize the role and maybe keep Martin at bay when he got back. But unfortunately, that did not happen.
Yeah, I think. Oh, go right ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say, I think it's pretty unfortunate because he's one of those guys, along with Giovanni Bernard and Theo Riddick, that were kind of drafted as their handcuff, but they seem to have a role, especially in PPR leagues, as being that passing down back that we're going to have some sort of volume, even when that number one guy was there. So I think that is going to be hurting for some people, and I think Jaquiz Rogers will step up and have a role. You saw on Monday night that he did get a lot of play. You talk about the history that he has with Dirk Cutter going back to Atlanta. Obviously, there's some sort of connection there. So I think that Rodgers would definitely be a pickup. If you already own Doug Martin, you're going to want to add Rodgers as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you need to keep Rodgers if you have him, add him if you don't, and if he's available. But I mean, Martin's going to get the work. I still think he's going to get the majority of the work, but he'll be, Rodgers will definitely be valuable and someone you should keep on your radar. All right, Andre Smith goes on the IR, as well as Lane, and the other one I guess we can kind of lump in here since it's offensive tackles. Lane Johnson's suspension, 10-game suspension, is upheld. I know you guys don't typically care because they're linemen, but I pay attention to these because I think they definitely affect what the teams are going to do. Andre Smith is already, the Minnesota Vikings offensive line is already struggling and hurt. So to lose a guy like that, I think they're having difficulties running the ball in most cases anyway. I mean, obviously, as Asiata had an okay game this week, and the week before that it was Jerick McKinnon had a good week, but I mean they're not really running the ball well on the season. So, and here's another big part of that line goes down. So, and then with the Eagles, I mean I was worried about their offensive line holding up to begin with this season. And now Lane Johnson gets suspended, and they're going to be short one of their main key pieces here. So there's another running game that's not really particularly solid with Ryan Matthews and the rest of the crew there. So any thoughts on either of these guys, or at least their running games attached to those guys?
So, Steve, I don't know if you picked up on it, but Kevin basically said he's smarter and better than us because he's concerned about offensive line, and we're not. Like, we don't know that they actually block for the running backs.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where that came from. But
I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all. I said that I always put these on here, and I get mocked every time I do.
I actually did mock him earlier today.
Mocking has nothing to do with the lineman. We just find different things to mock you for.
Well, all right. So then you guys do care. So give me your thoughts on this then.
Here's my thought. I don't think the Andre Smith one is that big of a deal because this is it's a 30-year-old guy who he was named a starter late as it was. He hasn't played that well. And, maybe he's partially the reason why they're not running so well this year. So I think that he's, it's not easy to just pick linemen up off the street. But I think for his level, where he was at and what he was producing, he's probably more easily replaceable than Lane Johnson. So that definitely affects it because I think with the rookie quarterback over there and the running game not being so great, I think it definitely affects Philadelphia more than Minnesota. But, I still expect the Eagles' running game to be better than a Minnesota running game. It just hasn't been very pleasant to watch this year in Minnesota.
I'll just add, it's not a move that you're like, oh my gosh, I have to bench Ryan Matthews now. Oh no. It's just something to keep in mind and to pay attention to, that running game might take a hit, and just plan accordingly just in case things start to go downhill. But you don't have to make any drastic moves because of it.
Yeah, I don't think anyone ever makes any drastic moves because of offensive linemen, but it's just something to keep in mind. Like you said, speaking of offensive linemen, Adam Gase is blaming Tannehill's struggles on the pass protection. So, Laramie Tunsil, I guess, slipped in the shower and is moving to IR. Brandon Albert
Wait a second. Is that why he's going on IR?
Yeah, that's what I heard on
what
on
a calamity
today.
this guy is.
Yeah, he's really. I mean, Sal. They say it could happen to anyone.
Is there any truth to the rumor that his stepfather put a bar of soap on the floor while he was shampooing it and could not see it? Is that possibly true?
I suppose it's possible. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But anyway, so I mean, look, I think that the key here to remember is that I do not think that Tannehill's struggles are on the offensive lineman.
No, I think it's more the fact that he's not a quarterback. I'm pretty sure he was a wide receiver in college, and I know there are a lot of wide receivers in the NFL now that were quarterbacks in college, but not too many wide receivers in college that they make the transition to a quarterback. So I think that probably has a lot to do with it. And I have no doubt that Miami will be looking for and getting a new quarterback to start next year. It's going to be a long season for them. They've been looking pretty rough the last few weeks.
Yeah, but Arian Foster might come back this week.
Who?
That'll be a good 3 quarters.
I mean, the shame of this is the effect it has on Jarvis Landry, because the first few weeks, Landry looked really good, and I really thought he was making an ascension into maybe a wide receiver 1. And then Tannehill remembered he sucked. So it's a shame. I have Landry in a few places, and it's bugging me.
Yeah, I hear you. I was high on him coming in this season, and he's not looked good. Speaking of not looking good, Blaine Gabbert finally gets benched, and Colin Kaepernick is expected to take over as 49ers starting QB. They've apparently restructured his contract so that he isn't going to get guaranteed money if he gets hurt or for any other reason, really. So, I get it. They're probably giving Kaepernick. We haven't gotten details yet, but they're probably giving Kaepernick some more money, and basically, but they're getting out of his contract next year, no matter what. And now they get to start him without worrying about whether or not he gets injured. So it's kind of a win-win for the 49ers.
I don't think there's any chance that his helmet actually fits on his head. There's no chance you're telling me that he can get that helmet on with that friggin' fro that he has going on. That welcome back Carter, Mr. Cartier fro he's got going on.
It is pretty impressive. Look, here's the deal. I think that this is actually relevant because I think it will. I think I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think he is a good quarterback for the Chip Kelly offense, and as long as he's I guess got enough weight and is in good physical condition, which apparently seems to be a concern. But the guy can sling it, and he's very, very fast. So, and those are 2 things that you want in that offense. I think it could actually improve the offense, and even in particular, it'll actually make Carlos Hyde better, I think. So, I mean, that's my thoughts. I don't know. Steve, what do you think?
Well, I think Carlos Hyde has definitely been a lot better than any of us really had projected for him coming into the season. And I do agree that this can really only help all the players' values on this team because they can't get much worse. Jeremy Curley, he did have a good last couple weeks, and I expect something like that to continue. Maybe not as good as last week, but maybe something between the two. And Torrey Smith, you'd expect him to start getting worked into the offense a little bit more. And I agree with your point about it helping Carlos Hyde. So I do agree this does help the value of all the 49ers players because it cannot get much worse than what it was. But I'm still not jumping over jumping over hoops because I'm excited about this type of thing.
I thought it was
through hoops. Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't.
I'm not.
If you jump over hoops, you jump over them.
Yeah,
that's even more impressive, I guess.
What can I say?
Can you jump over a basketball hoop?
Maybe.
I thought it was pretty interesting that the rumors came out from the locker room that the team wanted Christian Ponder to actually start, not Colin Kaepernick. So I don't know if he has the full support of the team, and I don't know that has anything to do with his previous controversies or not, or if they just don't feel like he's ready. I also wonder, is Colin Kaepernick mentally focused to do this right now? Because something along the lines caused him to lose focus and lose the weight. And again, I want to take away from the kneeling or the sitting or any of that stuff. And he wasn't the physical specimen that he once was. This was a guy who 2 years ago or 3 years ago got a really nice payday, led the team to the Super Bowl, and was looking like he was on the cusp of being a premier quarterback in this league. So I think it'll be interesting to see mentally and physically how he holds up.
Yeah, it should be interesting to watch. I think it's a good thing. I'm curious to see how he does in the offense, and we'll see. I mean, he's, like I said, he's built for this offense. If he can make it work, if he can be the guy he used to be. So hopefully he does. I'm pulling for him. I mean, nobody wants to see Christian Ponder except for apparently the rest of the team. So, all right, moving along here. Marty Morningweg is going to replace Mark Trestman as the Ravens offensive coordinator. Look, the Ravens have been, while they've won a little bit, but Sal, as you pointed out several times, it's kind of a shell game that they're playing with their wins, since they're not really, they kind of beat up on some bad teams in bad spots. So, and they didn't even look good doing it. But this change comes pretty quick. Do you guys think that this affects what they're doing on offense? What and how, and if so, how does it affect it?
And then maybe they're trying to jump on the fact that it worked for Buffalo, and Buffalo won 3 straight after they fired their offensive coordinator. But this is kind of like Morningwig's thing, right? Doesn't he just get a job somewhere, hang around, and just wait for somebody to get fired and get advanced? This is definitely not the first time it's happened with Marty.
Are you
okay?
You have a problem saying my? Yeah. Did you just have a stroke?
No. That was purposely done.
Oh, all right.
I'm 100% virile right now.
Look, I think that it might help a little bit with the opening up of the passing game and maybe getting some more deep balls downfield. It seems like that's kind of the kind of thing that they're lacking. Flacco's that type of guy. He throws the ball deep on a regular basis, or at least he has in his career, and they really haven't taken too many shots this year. So, and Trestman's not really that type of guy, in my opinion, either. So I think maybe that is something that you'll see a little bit more. So maybe Mike Wallace's value ticks up a touch. We're still waiting around to see what happens with the running backs, so I don't really know how much this is going to affect that. So, Steve, any thoughts there?
No, not really. I think, like you said, it's going to help with the deep ball, and Mike Wallace, who after the first couple of weeks we talked about how he was like a wide receiver in the top 5, and we all kind of said that we didn't think that was going to last. All his numbers were based on his touchdown dependence. So maybe if they're taking a few more shots down the field, that would help increase his value quite a bit because it was dropping pretty fast. But like I said on the last podcast, you got to be careful. You want to hear what happens on the injury report because he did take a pretty nice shot and was down. The last footage I saw of that game, he was still down on the field. So I would just be paying attention to that and, of course, what happened to Steve Smith. But yeah, I think it definitely gets a little excitement into the clubhouse when they make a change like this.
Yeah, that's definitely exciting when they make changes. I think it does pump up a team, like to your point, Sal, and you can probably sneak a victory or two out of it and then fall back to wherever you are supposed to be, I guess. So we'll see what happens.
For the record that the Giants trounce Baltimore this week.
Wow. All right. Lock of the week?
Yeah, I have them as I actually picked them as my survivor pick today. I'm streaming the Giants defense, which has not been that great the last couple of weeks. I just have that feeling that this is Baltimore's coming down, the Giants coming off of back-to-back bad losses, and I feel like they get on the right page this week and light them up. Light them up!
All right. some guys that might not be lighting it up this week are guys that are injured, and you may need to monitor their injuries closely this week. So just want to run through those really quickly. A couple of guys that stood out to me, and let me know if you guys know of any that I missed here. Eddie Lacy obviously left the game early with an ankle injury. We saw him, getting it wrapped. I haven't heard too much. It sounds like he says he's going to be okay, but you never really know. Particularly with ankles, I think it takes a few days before you know how they're going to react, if there's swelling and all that. So I think just keep an eye on what Eddie Lacy does in practice this week. Carson Palmer was actually cleared today. It was there was some back and forth. First he was going to be cleared, then he was still in the protocol, and then it came out later that he was cleared. So he should be good to go this week. Jeremy Hill has just about everything wrong with him. I don't know. I think he left the game this week with multiple injuries at multiple different times. He was clearly not very effective anyway. So he's a guy that's going to be sore, and you're going to have to keep an eye on. Cody Kessler, if that affects anyone, you should keep an eye on his shoulder because he left the game. He obviously left the game early, didn't come back. It's another one of the. We've seen a lot of these shoulder injuries with the AC joints this year, but he's got a painful one, and it looks like he's going to play, but they did cut Charlie Whitehorse. I don't even know his name. It's not even worth knowing.
Charlie Whitehurst.
Whitehurst. Yeah, they did cut him today and brought up their practice squad guy, so another rookie. So just keep an eye on that if you have Terrell Pryor, or if you're hoping Duke Johnson somehow turns the season around at some point. And Julius Thomas looks like he's going to be a go this week. He is an elbow injury, but keep an eye on it because he has been out for a couple weeks now. Anybody else that I missed, guys?
I don't think so. Right. It was pretty light.
I mean, guys,
light week.
Guys who have been hurt that are possibly coming back. Don't be so sure Des Bryant will be there this week. He's still not a lock. I think people are talking about him like he's coming back. Eric Decker, there's been nothing really new on him, and I know a lot of people have been asking questions. Choose between these three guys. Eric Decker, this is a guy who might end up on the IR, so he's not a guy you should be relying on coming back this week. Other than that, Kerwin Williams got added. Did we bring Kerwin Williams back up? That he got re-added in Arizona, which I think is a sign that they don't like Andre Ellington over there, which has been Arians' thing for the last 2 years.
I think we talked about that as well, that they don't like Andre Ellington, and then he's not good at football.
And I think Trevor Simeon's going to be back, as well as Virgil Green for Denver this week. So those are two guys, if you're in deeper leagues, that we definitely missed. I know I definitely missed both of them last week, and it looks like both of them are on target to play this week.
Excellent. And just a reminder for everyone else, week 6, you have Minnesota and Tampa Bay on your bye week this week. So plan accordingly for that. Steve.
Breaking news.
Whoa.
Dolphins end the Isaiah Pede experiment.
Oh, yeah, that I did hear that as well. Yes.
Pouring one out for Isaiah Pede.
Arian Foster, man. It's happening. It is happening this week. I'm sucked in again, guys.
Yeah, well, that's going to be painful. We'll help console you Sunday night.
I appreciate that. All right, so Steve, why don't you get through some game reviews?
All right, so for the Sunday night game, you had the Green Bay Packers beating the New York Giants 23-16. For the Packers, Aaron Rodgers has a solid night, 259 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. Another one of those going to Jordy Nelson, and then one of them going to Devontae Adams. He does also throw 2 interceptions. Eddie Lacy did look solid. He had 81 yards rushing on 11 carries, but like we just mentioned, he left the game in the third quarter with an ankle injury and did not return. And Randall Cobb also took a pretty big hit, and he's dealing with an injury as well. But both of them, they said, don't seem like they're too serious. Then for the Giants, they looked pretty bad. You heard Sal going off on Eli. He did get a late touchdown to Odell Beckham to save OBJ's night, but for Eli, it was pretty ugly. 18 for 35, 199 yards passing, only that 1 touchdown. Orleans Darkwa, he burned anybody that trusted him after week 4. He only got 11 yards on 7 carries. Victor Cruz gets 0 points, and Sterling Shepard only has 2 catches for 14 yards. So, Sal, what are you taking away from this Giants beatdown from the Packers?
That you people should listen. If you started Orleans Darkwa, we tried to tell you that the Packers are giving up no yardage to running backs on a weekly basis. So going forward, keep that in mind. Unless you have yourself a legitimate stud running back, you should not be starting these fringe guys, which Arlene Darkwell was. He's like a running back 3 to flex. He shouldn't have been playing in your lineup anyway. I thought it was nice to see Odell and the kicking net make up after the touchdown. I thought that was a pretty sweet moment. And yeah, I think so. The statement I made a little while ago about the Giants beating up on Baltimore this week, coming out of this game, you wouldn't believe it. But I got to imagine they're just slightly off. I know it's the offensive line is really not giving Eli enough time, but I'm looking for that to change a little bit this week. From the Packers side, one thing that's noticeable is Starks does not look as good as he did last year, filling in for Eddie Lacy. So to me, if Lacy is healthy, I'm not concerned that Starks is going to take carries from him going forward. And I really do hope that Lacy gets back out there. He's a guy having a couple of few spots, and he was averaging seven plus yards per carry in that game on Sunday night. So happy with what I see there. Devontae Adams has been relevant. I mean, the guy has 3 touchdowns. He's kept the young guys at bay. I thought guys like Janis and Abadaris and Montgomery would maybe be able to get themselves some playing time this year, but he's kept them at distance. And Richard Rodgers, I thought you'd do something for me this week, buddy, with the cookout, and you did nothing. So thanks for nothing.
Kev, let me ask you something. The Giants offense, they say the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and Odell Beckham definitely was that squeaky wheel last week. A lot of people are saying that because of that, it seemed like Eli was trying to force feed Odell Beckham. Do you think that was part of the issue of what was going on Sunday night, or do you think it was more on Eli just not having a good game?
Yeah, I think it's more on Eli. I mean, obviously 12 targets, you gotta think that he's trying to feed him, but I don't know that Eli's really the type of guy that does that kind of thing. I don't know, maybe he is, but to me, he doesn't strike me as the type of guy that's going to be like, oh yeah, I really have to get the ball to him just because of that, because he's complaining and things like that. I mean, I think Eli just kind of goes out and plays. Interestingly enough, I'm not a big Eli Manning fan, but I do think that that's one thing that he does do is spread the ball around. I think he did it very well last year. So I just think, I think you're going to go to your best receiver too, and especially in a game where you're struggling. And Odell Beckham, whatever you guys think about him, he's their best receiver. He's one of the best receivers in the league. He's going to be, and he was open too. Eli overthrew him. Eli overthrew him a lot. I mean, Eli didn't look great this year. He wasn't on point, or in this game, he wasn't on point. So I think I don't think it was scripted for him to go to Beckham more than usual. I think Beckham was the guy that was open. So, yeah. That answer your question?
That does.
You little butthurt, Kev?
Yeah, I was gonna say, why aren't you a fan of Eli?
Oh, did he beat you guys in the Super Bowl twice? Oh, Kev?
No. I mean, obviously, yeah, I hate the Giants for that, but no, I just never.
18-1.
Eli's never really been. He's never really been a guy I was that high on. I mean, he's good. He's had a good career. He's been a solid quarterback, but he's just, I don't know. He's boring to me.
18 wins, 1 giant loss.
He's boring to me. Listen, Sal, I do have a question for you. Is Aaron Ripkowski on your radar now? Are you picking him up?
I'm all over the Ripkowski.
I will say one other thing that I did find interesting in this game was that Devontae Adams, like you said, is relevant again. We were talking about this a little off the air. I actually asked you, is he relevant? Is he relevant enough to make to go grab him? I think people had dropped him and really weren't paying attention to him, but he's had some touchdowns and he is relevant. So do definitely go out and get him. I'm shocked also that Paul Perkins didn't get a little more run in this. That's something for me when a guy like Orleans Darkwa is getting 11 yards on 7 carries. You'd think that they give the rookie a shot a little bit more. I know Green Bay, as Sal mentioned, is really good against the run, only giving up 9.5 points. They're best in the league there for fantasy points for running backs, but still. Let the kid run. Free Perkins.
Looked like Bobby Rainey got very comfortable and they just kind of locked in with him and they were throwing the ball a lot. So Rainey looks to be filling in that Vereen role, and he's a guy who I wasn't buying into it, but PPR leagues, he's getting a lot of targets and a lot of catches.
Yeah, 6 catches on 6 targets for 52 yards. I guess that's relevant in deeper PPR leagues.
Yeah, for sure. Falafel. Steve would love to have him in Falafel.
Oh yeah, that would be nice. We're not here to talk about my falafel team.
Oh.
All right, we've got a Monday
right.
night game to preview now. Let's move on.
My bad.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, so we've got the Buccaneers that are able to beat the Panthers in a really, really terrible Monday night football game.
Hey,
The 1-4 Panthers.
First and goal at the 2. Let's pass the ball. This is a terrific idea with Derek Anderson. Intelligent, great move. Riverboat Ron.
Oh, all right. So
someone got screwed over. I mean, he got 2 touchdowns, dude.
Not good enough. Wait, I won both of those leagues. Go ahead.
All right. So for the Buccaneers, this game was not very enjoyable to watch. We know that from seeing everything this season that Mike Evans, he is a bad man. All he does is catch touchdowns like Eric Decker. Since Eric Decker's not playing, Mike Evans has taken over that role. He's scored a touchdown every week except for one so far. He gets 89 yards to go along with the score. And then you've got Jacquizz Rodgers filling in for Doug Martin and Charles Sims. He gets 35 touches, turns those into 129 total yards. Jameis Winston, he just struggled for the most part. He went 18 for 30 for 219 yards, has that 1 touchdown. And we're not even going to get into the field goal kicking. I mean, there's too much that we could talk about there. Then for the Panthers, you got Cameron Artis-Payne scores the 2 touchdowns for the Panthers. Derek Anderson turns the ball over 3 times in this game, so I'm sure the Panthers, they feel like they should have won this one. Greg Olsen, he does get 9 catches for 181 yards. He had a great night. And Kelvin Benjamin, he had a pretty solid night as well. So, Kev, what are you taking away from this Monday night thriller?
Well, the punters had a really good game.
They got some work in.
They were both very well. Did very well. 44.3 average for Andy Lee, 45 average for Brian Anger. I mean,
I'm embarrassed that you looked that up. I really am.
We're doing punting stats now. This is great.
That's right. Yeah, I thought you guys would enjoy that. No, I honestly don't think. I think we talked about Jacquizz Rodgers and his value going forward, so that's something obviously to pay attention to from this game. I think you have to start wondering whether or not Jameis Winston can. He's been okay for fantasy because of the touchdowns, but when he puts up 1 touchdown, it shows how awful he can be. So I think you got to worry about that there. If you're someone that was counting on Winston, I think you're going to head back into the streaming category real soon. And for Carolina, I mean, they're 1-4, which is shocking to me. It's not a good look, and but Cam will be back this week, so they'll be better. I have to imagine that Kelvin Benjamin will see a little bit of an uptick. He had 5 for 70, obviously, which isn't terrible, but no touchdowns, and Greg Olsen had a hell of a day. So I honestly didn't take much away from this game. Mike Evans is good, Greg Olsen's very good. And I'd be concerned about Winston.
Let me ask you this. So I was having this conversation with Corey in the Fantasy Life app, Falafel House chat today, and there was some discussion about should I add Jonathan Stewart and what's your idea of him or this guy going forward. And to me, the Cameron Artis-Payne obviously took a little bit of time to get going last night, but he looked really quick and solid in the second half. And I think that he earned a right at least to get touches. I know that in the past, Jonathan Stewart is active, and they seem to not have Cameron Artis-Payne active on those nights. My feeling is he's never really gotten the proper chance, a good long look. I think by next year, this is probably the guy who's going to be the running back on his team. So do you guys think that this hurts Jonathan Stewart's value when he comes back? Because maybe they say, Stewart doesn't have the ability to stay healthy. Let's activate Cameron Artis-Payne. Let's give him maybe not equal touches, but a 2-to-1 ratio going forward the rest of the season. So how does this affect Jonathan Stewart's value?
I don't think it does. Personally, I think when Stewart comes back, he's going to be the guy the same way it was before because, first of all, Stewart is better than Cameron Artis-Payne. And while I agree with you that Cameron Artis-Payne is probably the future for them, Jonathan Stewart is the guy that's there right now, and he gives them the best opportunities to win, in my opinion.
You don't think with obviously they're 1-4 now, so I don't think the first thing they need to do is get a win and not really worry about the playoffs. But
that's why Stewart will be in my mind. I think they think he's the better running back.
You're probably right at this stage, yes, but he doesn't have the ability to stay healthy.
He doesn't have the ability.
That's why they. Go ahead, Steve.
Sorry, I was going to say he doesn't have the ability to stay healthy, but this is nothing new, and it still doesn't stop them from riding him into the ground when he is healthy. So
hold on to Cameron Artis-Payne, you're saying?
I would, if I am a Jonathan Stewart owner, for sure I'm holding on to Cameron Artis-Payne. But I mean, otherwise it would depend on roster construction and all that kind of stuff, whether or not you need to keep him on your team.
Yeah, I'm only keeping him if I'm a Stewart owner. So
I'm not dropping him.
Well, you can hang on to him, Sal. You hold on tight. You hold on tight. All right, so thank you, Steve, for going through the games, and we will, continue to do this on our Tuesday show. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. All right, guys, you want to talk some MFL 10s?
Sal does.
Or Sal's
I also do.
Sal's still a little salty.
I don't know. Steve just spoke for me, so I guess I don't know.
Yes, he does.
Speaking for me now.
You don't have a choice. All right. So for those of you who may not be aware, or maybe you haven't gotten involved yet, the My Fantasy League site does MFL 10s, which are best ball leagues, basically 20 roster spots. You draft, I think you start 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, a couple of flex, tight ends, yada, yada, yada. You draft them. It's best ball. So you draft it. You forget about it. You don't have to set lineups. You basically just whatever your best score for the week is, that's what you get. And then the highest scores at the end of the season wins the league.
No waiver ads either.
No waiver ads, no transactions whatsoever. It's truly draft it and forget all about it. So we thought it might be fun to go through some of these leagues that we drafted earlier in the season. Obviously, they're all drafted during they start in April if you're crazy enough to start doing them then, and you can draft right up into the middle of August basically. So inevitably, you're going to have some guys on your roster that are misses, and you're going to have some guys on your rosters that are hits. That you wouldn't have expected, but when you're doing drafts in April, May, and June, that's going to happen. So we thought it'd be a good way to go through some fantasy players and sort of see what's going on around the league as a way of going through these. So you guys want to tell us a little bit? We'll start with you, Steve. Give me your. Let's look at how many are you in first of all. Let's start there.
I'm in 4.
4 leagues, so 4. I'm in 4 as well. Sal, how many did you end up with this year?
I really missed the boat on doing them this year. I only end up doing 2. It may or may not have to do with the fact that you guys discovered I was poor before we got on the podcast tonight. But
we didn't discover it. I asked.
And I only did 2, but my son also did a fast draft, which was best ball through Scott Fish's charity leagues, which when we were drafting, we were not aware it was a best ball league. So that team is not built for best ball at all.
Okay. All right. None of my teams are doing very well. I have 4 as well. They're not doing very, very good at all. So, Steve, let's start with your best team. Who are some of the players that you find to be successful that maybe, well, I guess just in general, who's successful and who's a surprise for you on that team?
Honestly, this is what it can be so frustrating about fantasy football and what can be so great about it and what is so weird about these MFL 10s in general. Because this team, when I drafted it's the one that we made through Falafel, not the Falafel charity ones, but the ones that we made before those. And what's weird about this one is that I've got Le'Veon Bell. He was obviously my first round draft pick. But my other running backs, when I drafted them at the time, my next 3 best running backs were Tevin Coleman, Melvin Gordon, and DeMarco Murray. And when you drafted that team in the middle of August, that wasn't the most promising lineup of running backs. But now 5 weeks in, you see that all 3 of those guys are top 10 running backs. And then you look at my quarterbacks that I've got with this team, Ryan Fitzpatrick and Ryan Tannehill. and I am in first place because of how good the running backs have come into fruition, and you guys know how terrible those quarterbacks have been. So it's crazy how stuff like this can work out. Got Kelvin Benjamin, who started out hot going, at the beginning of the year. But then my wide receivers are also, I've got Eric Deckard and Josh Dotson, who is a hot name, but he's not playing, and Eric Decker's obviously hurt. Then you had Marcus Wheaton, who had a lot of hype come into the year and has not really lived up to that after dealing with the shoulder injury. And so it's crazy how these things can happen, how this stuff works out. You would have never thought that a team with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Ryan Tannehill after 5 weeks would be the highest point scoring team in one of these leagues. But hey, it's happening. It's happening, and I'll take it.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, in that same group that we drafted, so my team, as I mentioned, most of my teams are terrible on this format, and this particular one is very, very bad. I mean, I'm in last place by a lot. But interestingly enough, if you look at this team, if you had looked at it preseason, I think you would have thought it was a pretty good team. So my team starts off with Tom Brady and Jay Cutler as quarterbacks. Now I know Cutler, I didn't expect a ton out of him, but he was a filler for 4 weeks until Brady came back and Cutler was hurt. So I had no quarterback for 3 weeks, 3 out of the 4 weeks. And then, Melvin Gordon's been pretty good as a running back, but my other running backs are that I was counting on, Danny Woodhead and Charles Sims, full point PPR. I thought, those were good backs to have. Obviously Woodhead gets injured, goes on IR. Sims just got injured and goes on IR. So not good there. I have Allen Robinson as a running back, which I would have thought would be great, but he's been, a little down this year as well. And then Rob Gronkowski as a tight end is another guy that I looked at this team and thought, wow, all right, I should be okay. And no, they've just been awful. So to your point, you can definitely draft these and some teams you can look at and think would be terrible, but for mine, I really was proud of this team. I thought it was going to be good.
Well, who drafts and doesn't think the team's going to be good, really? So
fair enough, but you understand my point, right? Those are good players. You would have thought coming in.
Hey, I've drafted a team and 2 rounds in, I hate it. 2 rounds in, you make that second draft pick, and you just have a feeling in your stomach, and you're just like, I'm not a big fan of this.
But that's because you hate yourself. That's a deeper issue.
Yeah, we don't have time for that right now.
So I got a tale of 2 cities, right, in my 2 leagues, and one of them I'm competing very well. I'm in 3rd place I'm less than 30 points off the lead, and I'm actually right behind Mike Tagliere. You guys might know him from Pro Football Focus. He also does the Hot Route Pod with his wife Tabby Tags, who I communicate with on Twitter from time to time. He's right ahead of me, and my first pick in that draft was Dez Bryant, and he hasn't done me really much good, but I do have Kelvin Benjamin and Sammy Coates, and I think Cole Beasley was a great grab for me in that league. And on my running backs, I have Spencer Ware, who was great out of the gate, and Tevin Coleman, Theo Riddick. So those guys have really helped to carry me. Jay Ajayi and Jeremy Hill have not so much done that. Darren Sproles has chipped in with some decent games. But my quarterbacks in there are Cam Newton and Derek Carr. So I've gotten really good quarterback play basically on every week basis. So one of those 2 guys, if not both, have had really solid weeks every week that they've played. So if you want to go over to my falafel one, I can switch into that one. I don't think it's going to be as pretty. So I'm going to jump into that one right now. And I will tell you that my roster over there is I also have Derek Carr, but then I have Ryan Fitzpatrick. Todd Gurley, who's underperformed, Jeremy Hill again, Charles Sims, LeGarrette Blount, Zach Zenner, Dante Moncrief, who's been out, Kevin White, who is out, Marcus Wheaton, who has done nothing, Devin Funchess, who has done nothing, Philip Dorsett, that's right, he's done nothing. So this team, it's not a surprise that in that one I am 4th from last, but I am ahead of El Boogie, so that makes me happy.
Well, that is good. Good.
I just think it's funny that in one of these other ones that I'm in, like I said, I'm in 4 of them. I'm not lower than 6th in any of them, so I've been doing okay. And this other one, I believe I'm in with Evan Silva and Wispy from the Fantasy Life app, and my tight ends like we said, we do these in August, and so I drafted Ladarius Green, who was a hot name, and then I said, who would be good
You should have listened to me on that one.
Yeah, I probably should. I'm still holding out hope, though. Still holding out some hope. And,
come back.
I said, it would be really cool to pair with this guy, Jimmy Graham. And so my two tight ends were two guys that didn't even play for the first couple weeks.
So what we're finding out here is that you are lucky and I am unlucky. That's really what it boils down to.
The common factor between all of this is that I was a heavy proponent of the 0 running backs. And so my wide receivers are pretty legit in almost every league that I've drafted in. And they've really been saving me and helping me out just about everywhere. So
that's a great point to bring up. And obviously we're kind of going through some of our teams here, but we should probably drop some fantasy advice somewhere along the lines here. And that's one right there is, these MFL 10s, I think it makes sense to go wide receiver heavy. And I kind of experimented with some of these here and there. I did one that was running back heavy. I did one that was wide receiver heavy, or at least I thought it was wide receiver heavy. I kind of experimented a little bit this year with them, but I think you really do have to load up on wide receivers because the running backs tend to be hit or miss, right? You just don't know.
It's also full point PPR, so
exactly.
Definitely benefits you to go wide receiver heavy. But I had put a tweet out asking people on Twitter and on the Fantasy Life app to also let us know some of the guys that have helped them and hurt them. And pretty much all the responses were from Fantasy Life users. Jeddy, as you guys know him, at Jed York Goat. You know Jeddy. At Jed York Goat on Twitter. I believe he regrets having John Brown over Larry Fitzgerald in pretty much every league. Sean Meyer, who we all know as Dead Duck 77 on Twitter, he said that Crabtree was way underdrafted, and late round guys like Beasley and Howard have been gold. Jordan Howard is a guy I know. I believe, Steve, you grabbed in one of yours late, or?
Absolutely, I got him. He's in my Scott Fishbowl team. Very happy with that.
And Elliot Anderson, that's Kevin's favorite, Darth Peachy. He says that
my guy Peachy.
Dez and Hopkins have been killing him, but getting DeMarco Murray as a mid-round draft pick has made his fantasy feelings tingle. And his hashtag is Don't Forget Kuhn, which if you drafted John Kuhn in any one of these leagues, you should automatically just win for doing that. I want you to win now. Call up Mr. Mr. My Fantasy Leagues and let him know that you should be given the $100 today.
All right, so real quickly, I don't know if you guys prepared this, so if you didn't, I apologize. I'm going to put you on the spot, though. But looking through some of my rosters, I'm trying to figure out where some of my better picks were. And for me, one that stands out pretty much is Will Fuller in the 16th round in one of the leagues. I think he's been pretty solid. So obviously, I think we all have our opinion as to what he's going to do going forward and whether or not he's going to continue to do this. And I think you'll see regression. Obviously, you have the last couple of weeks, but still a great pick in the 16th round there, if I may toot my own horn there. Any that jump out for you, Steve?
Right off the bat, no. I got Mike Evans in just about all of them, and I know he's a popular pick, but I was someone that I was taking. I took him in the second round, so I was taking him over other people. And Melvin Gordon's on a bunch of my MFL 10 rosters. Getting him in the 7th round in what he's turned out to be definitely is what's helping me across the board. If Sal, what do you got? I'll look through some of my other ones, see if I can find any other gems in there.
I grabbed Cole Beasley in the 19th round, and that one where I'm in 3rd place. I thought that was a great grab. Spencer Ware in the 16th round is really good value. I'm trying to see where I was able to grab Sammy Coates. I don't know if I went early on him or not. I got Darren Sproles in the 14th round, which, especially for a full point PPR, he's been a nice grab. I actually drafted Sharkhandrick West earlier than Spencer Ware in that 14th
league. Round versus 15th round for me in the league that I have them both.
Tevin Coleman in the 12th. Tevin Coleman is a top 7 fantasy producer, and he's been catching the ball a ton. So in a full point PPR, he's been great at that value.
See, and that's a good thing to point out. Obviously, if you're going to do these, and Sally, this is your. If you're going to grab a backfield that may have question marks, or you don't know who the lead back is, grab them all. I mean, you have 20 spots. You got a lot of space in there. So if you can lock up an entire running back committee and one of those guys pans out, I think you're in good shape.
Yeah, Stacks. I did that also with Sammy Coates and Marcus Wheaton in a lot of places because Marcus Wheaton was, for all intents and purposes, the guy who we thought was going to be the number 2, but Sammy Coates was that wild card guy, and obviously it's paid off getting Coates. I don't think too many people early enough on when we did these knew about Eli Rogers, but he came in and flashed out with an injury early anyway. So Sammy Coates all around has been a nice find for anybody who's been able to get him. Let's just hope he doesn't have a case of the dropsies.
And I'll just add really quick, it looks like I got Kyle Rudolph in the 15th round, so that has ended up being pretty solid. And then Spencer Ware in the 20th round. I ended up snagging him, so that was...
you must read my Twitter. Good. That's nice.
Oh, yeah, that's all I have. You're the only one I follow.
Some blushing.
Nice. All right, so any other final thoughts on the MFL 10s before we move on here? No? All right, then.
I was trying to be nice and let Steve talk for once because I'm always such a big mouth.
See, that's why you shouldn't do that.
Crickets means no. Crickets means no.
Crickets does mean no. All right, so why don't we get into some waiver wire pickups? For me, I'll start off this week, and I'm going to talk about a guy that I still think is available in just about every league that I've seen. I think he's got like a 0.6 ownership percentage in ESPN leagues. So Adam Thielen, who's a guy I know you've been on as well, Sal, limited production through the beginning of the season. He topped out at 4 catches and 54 yards in week 1 as far as his most yardage and receptions. But this past week 5, with Stephon Diggs out, 7 catches, 127 yards, and 1 touchdown for the Minnesota Vikings. And look, he's a guy I think he should be on your radar. He should be on your roster. I'm not saying you're going to start him every week. I'm not saying he's going to be a guy that you really have to, he's going to really take you to victory, but he's not going to do 7 for 127 and a touchdown every week. Let's put it that way. And when Diggs comes back, that obviously eats into his value. But I think he has earned the trust of Bradford, and I think he will get more looks. So I think you're going to start to see more than the 4 receptions. I think you'll see maybe he creeps up a little bit, and maybe he gets a little bit of a long pass thrown his way from time to time. Definitely a guy that you're going to be able to spot start, good bye week fill in, and potential flex on during good matchups. So that's the guy I'm looking at. Sal, who are you looking at this week?
Yeah, so here's a guy who on last Thursday's preview show, I said that if you're looking for someone to add, it's Cameron Meredith, that he was going to take the Kevin White role, that Eddie Royal would stay in his current role, and obviously Alshon Jeffrey would stay in his role, and that Cameron Meredith would take the spot of the most targeted wide receiver in that offense, which was Kevin White. And in his first game this week, first start, he was targeted 12 times. He caught 9 of those for 130 yards and a touchdown. And just if you watch the game, you saw the old eye test. The guy looked like a legitimate NFL wide receiver. So he's a guy I'm just going to go out and say, hey, take a flyer on this guy because this might be this year's stud, shocking surprise wide receiver. So he's owned in 1.6 of ESPN fantasy leagues. I'm happy to say that I own him in 2 ESPN leagues, so I am part of that 1.6. He's going to be a hot name this week, so if you're lower down on a waiver claim, you might not get him, but what the hell, throw it in. He's a guy I could definitely see going forward as long as Brian Hoyer remains the quarterback. I think that's a big caveat to this, but I do think that's going to happen. He's a guy I absolutely am giving you the Sal 33 stamp of approval, which means nothing, really. But
wow.
Steve, who's trickling out for you this week?
Just real quick, you mentioned that Alshon was going to keep his role. What exactly is that?
I was going to ask you that, Steve.
The ignorance.
Don't ask me. I have no idea. Just get open. Just in case. just
He's open.
in case.
He is open.
Yeah, he's
Are you gonna go on?
wide open.
Are you gonna go on a rant again?
No, I'm gonna refrain.
Right.
I'm not happy about
Right.
Alshon Jeffrey. Not happy about Brian Hoyer.
Hopefully, you will be able to pick up some of your waiver guys then. What do you got?
Perhaps. First up is a guy I mentioned last week. It's Kenneth Dixon, still only owned in 33%. He did not have very much work last week. I believe he totaled negative, or I believe only 2 yards. He had negative 1 rushing yard on 3 carries. But slowly but surely, I think the consensus is that he is going to take over that job. Terrence West, he is looking good right now, but there's a reason that he's bounced around in his career and has never been able to really steal that main job. So Kenneth Dixon, a guy that you're going to want to add. Then we've got James White, 38.5% owned. He had a great week last week. He had 89 total yards and 9 touches. So you want to get a piece of this Patriots offense, and James White looks like he's going to be a solid piece of it. They were up by a lot. He was still getting a lot of work. So I think that he's a great add. And then one more real quick, only because he dropped below that 50% threshold. For some reason, Dante Moncrief is only owned in 49.6% leagues, and that needs to change. He is going to be back, if not next week, by the following week. I guarantee it. And he needs to be owned again as much as he was back before the season started. He is going to come back into that role in that Indianapolis Colts offense. He is a guy I'd be looking to see if for some reason he was dropped over these last couple weeks.
Yeah, he was dropped in my one Yahoo league that I do. And so I know that by the time that this airs, waivers will have cleared, and none of those guys like me. And listen anyway, but I will definitely be dropping Philip Dorsett and picking him up, hopefully getting him. I have a number 4 claim, getting him tonight. So you brought up the Patriots offense. I'll bring up Chris Hogan because it was another guy who's being talked about a lot today on the Fantasy Life app. And a lot of the questions were, would you pick Hogan or Meredith with your waiver this week? So he's owned in 34.8% of ESPN leagues. He's definitely worth an ad. Kevin could go on about him a little bit more when I'm done rambling on. He got deep for a couple of passes this week, and does sound like the injuries are not going to be substantial, and he'll probably be playing this coming week. He's been playing a lot even before Brady got back, but obviously, that this becomes a pass-first offense. And I think the really good news coming out of our waiver pickups is that I own 3 of the guys in Falafel already that we talked about. So I'm pretty happy.
Well,
Kev, you want to add anything about Hogan?
No, I think you did a good job there. I'm good with what you said. Look, I think the Patriots offense, to Steve's point, not your point, you want a piece of that offense if you can get it. So
thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, you definitely want a piece of that offense. They're gonna light the world on fire for the rest of the season. So that
sounds dangerous.
This girl is on fire.
All right, and
That's
I think that
dangerous.
sound means that it is time to wrap up the show, and I think we might have actually kept it to under an hour, or at least pretty close. So give me your final thoughts, Steve.
It's going to be real close. So thank you for sticking around for our first Tuesday edition of the Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast. If you'd like to find us on Twitter, you can do that at Falafel House. Go to our website, falafelhouse.com, for all the daily fantasy content that you'd ever want to find. And then you can find us on Facebook, like our page there, and on Instagram, just search for Falafel House, and you will find us. And on YouTube. We are now on YouTube as well. I don't know if we've mentioned that. And also on Reddit. We are infiltrating the internet in every which way we can. So, Sal, what do you got?
Yeah, so you're not going to hear us before the Thursday night game, so I just want to say start your Broncos. And do not be afraid of the Bronco run defense, and be afraid to start Melvin Gordon this week. They have not been that good stopping the run. Melvin Gordon leads the league in touchdowns. Get him in your lineup, and that's about all I'd be comfortable with from San Diego this week. Kev?
I just want to thank everyone for listening. You ever notice that Steve thanks everyone? I usually thank everyone, and Sal does not.
Sal spends more time in the chat talking to the people, kissing babies, passing out falafel pins, and doing that stuff in the daytime.
Hey, I don't
when
have
I come
a
out
falafel
here,
pin.
The people want straight Sal knowledge. And I don't have a lot of that, so I try to focus.
In addition to thanking everyone, I just want to remind everyone, obviously, we're in the 3 shows this week, so we'll have our preview show coming out on Friday, which we record on Thursday. But, this show's going to be – this midweek show is going to try to be a little bit more fun, a little bit more random. So if you guys have any ideas or any thoughts of things you would like to hear us go through, anything that doesn't involve Sal singing, please send us
I have an idea.
No, head us up on Twitter and let us know what you think.
It's finishing thought, not finishing thank yous. Okay, damn it.
You really had to get that in. You had to interrupt me to get that in. You can do better.
Yes.
You're better than that, Sal.
You keep expecting better from me. This is what I got, buddy.
All right.
This is the whole package.
You pushed us over an hour for this.
Yeah, thank you. Let us know if you have anything. That's it. I'm done. Steve, hit the button.
Peace back your mama.